Hello and welcome to this Profit Protector Pro video. I hope you're doing well, and today I've created 3 automations that you can go ahead and use yourself in Profit Protector Pro. So automations, for those of you that aren't quite familiar with this function and what it does, is a way of making Profit Protector Pro prepared for if a specific scenario happened when selling, when repricing, and it will perform a preset action that you've created to counter that scenario as and when it happens. So only when that scenario happens will an automation come into play and perform an action that you've set up in here. So it's a wonderful way of saving you shed loads of time and kind of great for having that reassurance of having like a backup plan in place. So like if a certain something was to happen, don't worry, Profit Protector Pro's got it sorted. With an automation, it means that you can be a bit more hands-free to focus on other areas of your business and there's less manual work involved. So with automations, you can create as many as you like. You can prepare for as many scenarios as you wish and in as many different ways as you choose. But I've gone ahead and created 3 automations for various events that are likely to occur when selling on Amazon. And these are just wonderful for having Profit Protector Pro do a certain something to counter when these scenarios happen. So the first one I've gone ahead and created is for stock age. So let's go ahead and open this up so you can see what I've done. Obviously I could keep going on and on and on with this. So with the automation, you just pick your condition from the list. Then you're able to specify certain parts about that condition, and then you choose your action of what exactly you want Profit Protector Pro to do if that particular scenario occurred. So what you could do in theory is create an automation for every stock age range and have that all in one automation. So you can prepare for if a product does become however old. So as it leaves one sort of like time frame and moves on to the next and gets older and older, Profit Protector Pro will be able to do different things for you. So what I've done is chosen the same condition for every single new condition I've added in. So it's all going to be in one automation. So I've gone ahead and chosen the if stock age range. So I've gone ahead and chosen if stock age reaches, and I've gone ahead and picked all of the different time periods. So as it moves down the line in terms of how old it is, I'm preparing for every single time window. So if it is 1 to 30 days old, I will decrease my minimum price by 50 pence. Of course, this might be something that you want to leave out completely. So when you recreate this automation for yourself, this might be one that you want to potentially leave out, just so that way your product has a chance to reprice in the original minimum and maximum parameters that you have set. So that way it's not instantly decreasing your minimum price, because you want to make as much profit as you possibly can. Also bear in mind when you do something like this, the minimum price still needs to be a price that you are happy to sell at. And just be aware of the product's break even and where you could potentially sell for a loss. So just be careful what you set and where you apply this. So you have to kind of think universally and what's going to work out well for the vast majority of your products if you were to apply this to the vast majority of your products. So the first one might be one that you want to leave out, but I've just put that in there as part of an example. So you could start it from this point and then work your way through and do a condition and an action for each of the time ranges after the 31 to 60 day window. So I've decreased my minimum price by £1. 61 to 90 days, I'm going to decrease it by £2. 91 pounds to 180, decrease my minimum price by £3.50. And then 181 to 270, decrease it by £4. Obviously, this will only happen if it does reach this specific time range window. It's not gonna, decrease the minimum price by £3.50 if it is in the 61 to 90 day range. And of course you can go ahead and create another condition and just, keep doing it. So that way you've got every single range covered. So it might be that you want to do something slightly different with the action, or what exactly you set. As I say, just be mindful of what it actually is that you're setting in terms of when you are decreasing your minimum price. You might prefer to do it by percentage instead. So it could be that you do it by I don't know, like 5%, 10%, 15%, and work it through that way. But this is a fantastic idea for an automation, I believe. Just preparing your products for however old they might be and not having to constantly check on them and make these changes depending on how old they are. Leave it to Profit Protector Pro. So that is automation number 1 that I wanted to show you. The next one is for if no sales are recurring. Now with Profit Protector Pro and the way that it works, if you've set good parameters on a listing and you've set yourself a good strategy, there are times where, very rarely still, where you might find that you are struggling to sell a particular product. It could be due to a shift in its popularity, its BSR, which is something that can happen. As we know, the forecast on Amazon, how exactly things sell, the popularity of things can shift, and sometimes it's quite drastic. But to prepare for if that was the case and we made no sales for, say, 3 days, we can change that to any number we want, and it can be days, weeks, or months. So you could do whatever you wanted in terms of the time frame, but just for an example, I've chosen 3 days. You could then switch the strategy in the hopes that doing that will drive some sales. So let's say you were using something like the cautious sales enhancer on that particular listing. If there's been no sales for 3 days, I'm going to choose to switch my strategy to the super aggressive dominator. This is a lot more sales focused, a lot more competitive, very reactive to anything that shifts around on the listing. So hopefully switching the strategy will drive those sales. Now, when I start making sales again, the automation will no longer be active and the strategy will switch back to what it was prior. So it will stop using the super aggressive in the automation and it will carry on using the cautious sales enhancer that I was using before. But not to fear, it could be that through the super aggressive dominator, it's grabbed that buy box, it's secured it, and then it hands it over to the cautious sales enhancer to then do its thing. So the shift back in strategy won't necessarily mean that you'll lose the buy box then and it'll be the same thing all over again. The strategy can hand it over to the other one. It might just be that bit of drive from the aggressive strategy that does secure that buy box, and then the other strategy is able to work with it a whole lot better now that it's secured it through the use of this automation. So you can do whatever action, as I say, you like and change your time period. This is just an example of something that you could do. So very simple automation, but something that is very real and can happen when selling on Amazon. So when no sales have occurred on an item. Now, the last of the automations I've made that you can go ahead and copy for yourself is if the buy box moves outside of my parameters. So this one is a great one to have, because that can happen. As I say, with the sales and the popularity of an item, the price range on a listing can also shift, and sometimes quite rapidly. So I have done 2 things here. So number 1, if the buy box goes below my minimum, now it's completely up to you what you want to set as your action. But for this example, I've chosen to match the mid FBA price instead of what Profit Protector Pro would do in this scenario, whereby it would sit at your minimum because that's as close as it can be to the buy box without repricing outside your parameters, because it will not do that. I've chosen to get it to match the mid FBA price because the mid FBA price would likely be within my min and max range. And hopefully by standing my ground and matching that mid FBA price, hopefully when the buy box falls to me, it's encouraged other sellers to also have their prices around that kind of pricing as well. So that way it's not securing the buy box at a lower price. And of course it will bump the price up again, but it's a slightly longer journey because it's having to bump it up a bit more. If I secure the buy box and it is around that mid FBA price, there's less of a journey it needs to take to bump the price up. So I can get to a higher price quicker if I was to stand my ground. I'm not saying that this is going to be the case 100% of the time or every time, but that was my thinking behind setting it up this way. But of course you can choose to decrease your minimum price. That's another good thing that you can do. It might be that you switch your strategy to an aggressive one, a bit like the other automation, because it will sit at your minimum. But if the buy box was to fall to you, it'll be very reactive and it will snap that up quickly, and then start repricing with it straight away and bumping that price up. So the next condition is if the buy box goes above maximum. So I've prepared for both scenarios here. If it goes below the minimum, if it goes above the maximum. So I've prepared for if my parameters are basically going to be exceeded. So if the buy box goes above maximum, if it's gone above the maximum, chances are the price range on this listing has shifted in a positive way because it's all moved up. So I wouldn't have to worry very much at all about if I move my max price up, could I end up with a suppressed buy box or getting warnings from Amazon, because the overall pricing on that listing, the price range has increased. Therefore, that's why the buy box has moved that high. So I'd be safe to increase my maximum. Of course, this might be something that I might want to review and change on the actual product itself. But if I wanted to play it safe initially, I might leave it down to the automation. So that way, when it goes above maximum, I can increase my max price by a further 10%. And see what that does. Of course, again, I may want to review it and change my max price parameter. But just initially, if that was to be a thing that happens, and if I wasn't at the desk, I'm not constantly watching that particular listing, the automation's got it in hand, ready for when it is I come round to actually review certain products and make these changes for myself after taking a look. So the automation has it in hand. So a way to prepare for if the buy box exceeds, goes outside my maximum and minimum parameters that I've set. So those are some examples of automations that you can basically just copy and use for yourself in Profit Protector Pro. Hopefully this was useful and gave you some inspiration for the types of automations that you can create in the software, and hopefully you see how awesome this particular feature is and how much time it's going to save you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.